Hey guys, Mr. Preacherman 75 coming at you from the kitchen table again. Wanted to do a comparison today of the two guns you're looking at. On your right is the Sig P250 subcompact. On the left, the Glock 26 subcompact. These guns are very similar in terms of size, weight, and function. They serve the same role for me, and I wanted to just take a second, put the two next to each other and let you guys know what I thought about them one against the other. Start off, let me give you just the statistics of the two. The Glock 26 is a striker fired 9mm. It's 6.49 inches long, 4.17 inches high, 1.18 inches wide, and has a 3.42 inch long barrel. It weighs in with an empty magazine at 19.75 ounces and has a 5.5 pound trigger pull. Now this is stock from the factory. I have not done anything to this to change the setup at all. And these stats are from the Glock website. It has a 10-round magazine, and mine actually came with the standard Glock sights with the U in the back and the dot in the front. Now, the Sig P250 subcompact is a double action only hammer fired 9mm pistol. It's 6.7 inches long, 4.7 inches high, 1.1 inch wide, with a 3.6 inch barrel. The weight with an empty magazine on the Sig is 24.9 ounces. The Sig comes with a 12-round standard magazine, and this one came standard with Sig-Lite night sights. So that, off the bat, would give it a little bit of an advantage over the Glock, just in terms of an upgrade there. In terms of price, the P250s I've seen bounce way up and down in price. When I first started looking at them, you could get a Sig P250 for around $350. Now I'm seeing them on Arms List regularly around $500. I don't know that anybody's paying $500 for these things. I think probably somewhere between $350 and $450, depending on where you live and what your shop is like. Should be reasonable. I wouldn't pay probably more than $450 for a P250 unless you really wanted it. I think it's a good gun, but you should be able to find it somewhere in the range of $350 to $450. The Glock 26, on the other hand, I think most Glocks in general cost around $500. You may find one for $450, $485, somewhere in that neighborhood. You may find in your area that it's more like $525 or $550, but right around $500 is about where most of your standard caliber Glocks can be bought. So so this one is a little bit less expensive, even though it's a Sig, and Sigs generally are higher priced than Glocks. The Sig P250 is going to come in probably a little less expensive than the Glock. Now, let me show you these guys, and I'm in front of the camera, not behind it, so hopefully you'll be able to see how they line up in terms of their size. I gave you the dimensions, but just so that you can look at them and see, the Sig is quite a bit taller from the bottom of the handle to the top. It's got a longer grip. It weighs about 4 ounces more than the Glock does, and you can feel the weight, and that's with the empty magazine. The magazine's bigger because the grip is longer. You get 2 more rounds in the flush fit magazine in the Sig, and so that's going to add a little bit more weight as well. But the trade-off is you get a bigger grip, and it's easier to grip. The Glock's grip and most of you probably are familiar with the baby Glocks, but the Glock's grip is very short. It's a 2-finger grip for sure. Now for me, the Sig is a 2-finger plus a little bit. I can get about half of my pinky down there on that, and that's with the flush fit magazine. And I'll talk about other magazines available as well, but I can get about 2.5 fingers on the Sig, whereas with the Glock, it's definitely only a 2-finger grip. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's only a 2-finger grip you're getting on the Glock. Now, the Glock may be a little bit easier to conceal because of the shorter grip. And I have found that to be true. And it depends on how you carry and where you carry on your body. But generally speaking, the Glock is a little bit easier to conceal than the Sig is because it's a smaller gun. However, it's not thinner. The Glock is actually wider, and that, of course, is generally a criticism of the Glocks. If you're going to find them criticized, it's this dimension that people criticize because they're fat. It's a fat gun. Sig is not known for their slenderness, but in this case, the P250 is slightly more slim than the Glock 26, and so for what you lose in terms of concealability on the length of the grip, you make up for in the width of the gun. So it just really depends on personal preference on that. What do you prefer? Does the width make a big difference? If you're carrying inside the waistband, certainly it may make more of a difference than if you carry outside the waistband. If you're a bigger guy like me, the length on the grip is not that big of a deal. You know, my body is wider than the length of the grip, so it's not going to be poking out the back of my shirt. On the other hand, if you're a smaller guy, that may make a bigger difference. So it just depends on your personal preference there, your body type, size, where you carry, and all of that. The Sig has, like I said, a double action trigger. It's 5.5 pounds, same as the Glock, but because it is a double action only trigger, it's a long trigger pull. It's a very smooth trigger pull, but it takes some practice to get used to it. I have found that once you do get used to it, though, it's a very, very accurate weapon. You can see I've got another video up of the where I show some of my targets, and I'm not a fantastic shooter. I'm not the best shooter in the world by any means. Adequate is the word I would use to describe my shooting, but you can see that from 7 to 10 yards on a 6-inch target, I've got some really nice groups, and you can look at my other videos and see that. The Glock shoots like a Glock, and there's not really another way to explain that, but like I said, I've left the trigger stock, so I don't have the lighter trigger or anything like that. It's a very crisp trigger, but it feels like a Glock trigger. So there's nothing really, to me, that's outstanding about that. In terms of shooting the two guns, I prefer the Sig very much over the Glock. It's just a nicer gun to shoot, to me. I get more of a grip on it. The trigger is nice and smooth. The recoil, maybe because it is a couple ounces heavier than the Glock, the recoil is lighter on the Sig than the Glock. Not that the recoil is a real problem with the 9mm on either of these, but it's just a nicer gun to shoot, to me, than the Glock is. Now, in terms of accessories, you'll find way more accessories for a Glock 26 than you will a Sig P250. That being said, I haven't had trouble finding holsters or anything like that for the Sig either. I've got a couple of different holsters for both of these guns. And so finding holsters is not really a problem. Magazines, I have found extra mags for the Sig. They are expensive, and that's a real drawback to the Sig is extra mags for the Sig are going to be about $50. I don't know what kind of magic powder they use on the on the Sig magazines that makes them so expensive, but $50 is what they run, whereas the Glock magazines are about $30 or $35, brand new, and you can find them used different gun shows and places like that. They're more readily available. Now, if you know anything at all about the Glocks, you know that if you have any that with the Glock 26, you can use a Glock 19 mag in the Glock 26, which holds 15 rounds. You can also use a Glock 17 mag, which holds 17 rounds, and they also make 20 round magazines and 30 round magazines or 33 round magazines for the Glock 9mm. So you have lots of options in terms of extra magazines with the Glock. The same can actually be said for the Sig. With this Sig, because the P250 comes in a subcompact, a compact, and a full size, all of the Sig P250 9mm magazines will fit the subcompact P250. So this one has 12 rounds, the flush fit. I also have a 15 round magazine for the 250, which was designed for the compact size but fits in the subcompact, and there's actually a sleeve that goes over it to kind of make up the difference on the grip, like you see in a number. I think M&Ps do that. I know that my old SR9C had a grip extender sleeve that went on it. So if you like that type of thing, you can get that as well. But like I said, the accessories for the Sig are going to be way more expensive than the accessories for the Glock. I'm going to do another video, because this one's getting kind of long, and show the different holsters that I've got for these things, and talk about that for a little bit. But I just wanted to put these guys next to each other, show you how they fare one against the other. To me, I prefer the Sig. Nothing against the Glock. I like the fact that it's a little bit lighter and it's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit easier to carry. I like the extra rounds in the Sig. I like the way the Sig shoots better, and if it comes down to really needing to use it, I want the gun that I feel the most confident in. And for me right now, I've got more trigger time on the Sig, and it's the Sig. I like the fact that this is a double action trigger. The hammer's down. I can carry around in the pipe with the hammer down on it, and that feels safe to me. I'm not 100% comfortable yet with the Glock, knowing that a round is chambered and the striker is back. I know there's a lot of guys that carry Glocks and they say that's dumb, and I understand that. I just don't have enough time with it to be comfortable with it yet. And so for me right now, my choice between these two, given their similarities and their characteristics, filling the same role, I choose the Sig. Take it for what you will. Guys, thanks for watching. This is Mr. Preacher Man 75. I'll talk to you again soon.